Joining us in the studio is Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. And of course, what we do on Fridays is we talk about firearms. It's 6 minutes, coming up on 7 minutes after 9, and we're at 50 on our way to 70 today. And it should be in the 70s tomorrow. And off air, Todd and I were just talking about the warm weather because tomorrow's class that you're working with, they'll be outside.
Yeah, they're gonna be shooting outside. I've had one other class that we shot outside, but we're gonna be using my new range, and we're gonna see how that goes on. In fact, I've been so busy, I haven't even been able to, go out and shoot in it myself. So unless I get a chance this afternoon, which I'm not thinking I'm gonna have, tomorrow's class will be the first class. You guys can break in the range. Don't disappoint it. We need to get kicked off on a good foot. So, we'll have a good time out there.
I was going to say you start early tomorrow morning with the classroom portion. That's half the day, and then the other half is just the instruction on the range.
Uh-huh.
And people then will have to wait a few weeks, but they will get that concealed carry permit, which again it helps with reciprocity. It's not necessary legally any longer in Idaho, but if you're going across state lines, certain state lines, it's a great thing to have.
Well, exactly. And so what I'll lay it out. What happens that they take the class, I give them all the signed paperwork that they need. They get and as soon as they get that, they can probably on since the class is on the Saturday, on Monday, they can go ahead and call down to the DMV, fill out the rest of the application. They'll have to fill it out. They'll have to call down to the DMV, and that's where you call in Twin Falls. Ask for Sergeant Doug Sugden. He will make an appointment. He will get you in there. He will look at your application. You'll give him all your certificate of completion and all that. He'll take your fingerprints, ask you a few questions, send off for your background, and he'll tell you that it takes up to 90 days to get everything back. But he doesn't want you calling every day, okay? And sometimes it does take up to 90 days, but more than likely it's probably going to take 30 to 40 days, maybe even less. And then when it comes in, he'll call you. You'll go in there. You'll get your picture taken. You'll get a card that essentially looks like your driver's license, and you're good to go after that. And it allows you to carry in other states, but also allows you to do a couple other things in the state of Idaho that you can't do without the permit. It allows you to carry on state of Idaho college campuses. That's not K through 12. That's college campuses. In certain areas, you can carry on the grounds. You can carry in like the business office, the classrooms. As long as you don't carry it in any place that'll seat over 1,000 people and no like
The Evans
dorms.
Expo Center comes to mind.
Yeah,
Right.
the expo center, the gym, and those places have signs on they have
Mhm.
those signed. Another one is the fine arts building. Even though that the main theater in the fine arts will, I think it only seat like 946 people is what the sign says, but they have a bunch of little
Mhm.
auditoriums and they
Mhm.
group it into one, which I'm not really buying that, but it is what it is. They got that signed, so you can't carry in there either.
We wanted to point out as well. Yeah, I took the Ancestry.com test last week, and they tell you 6 to 8 weeks to get results. But that's they after I got an email back, it explained because it only goes to Utah when you drop it in the mail. So within a day, I got a letter back or email back saying they tell people 6 to 8 weeks because there can sometimes be a backlog.
Right.
Otherwise, if there isn't, they test you right away, and you get within a couple of weeks, you get all of your results. So, but I think they advise patients in all of these things just to be on the safe
Well,
side.
and some people say, "Well, it's going to take too long to get it back. I don't have that kind of time," and they'll ho hum over it for like 3 weeks. And I'm like, "Well, now you're 3 weeks in. You could have possibly taken the class and already had your permit by now.
Right, right.
So it's you just get it done."
Is there still an opportunity of someone for tomorrow, or are you
Yeah.
filled?
No, no, I'm not Phil. I've got about a medium sized class. I'd love to have more people. You can give me a call or text me. Area code 620-794-6223. One more time, that's area code 620-794-6223. We can get you signed up. I can get you the directions to my place, tell you everything you need to bring, and we can get you in tomorrow. But I also have two more classes coming up. I've got one on June 10th and one on June 17th. Those are still actually those are getting pretty full too, which is kind of nice. My summer looks like it's going to be pretty busy, but I've still got plenty of slots left, and we get this class out of our way, for tomorrow, and I'll probably start looking forward to July. It's the beauty of having my own place to do the shooting and stuff, is I can schedule on my own. It's fantastic.
There are some for people who get the permit, and of course, it is helpful if you're going to be going to states where they have reciprocity. For people who'd like to know more, it's fairly simple to get a map online that will show you where those states are.
Yeah, there is, and actually, the best place to go, and it's not really a map, but to show the reciprocity for the Idaho permit is you can go to the Idaho State Police website. Yeah, I know this really well because I go there all the time. Idaho State Police website. When the homepage pops up, look up in the upper right-hand corner. There's a little icon that says concealed weapon or concealed carry. Click on it, and it'll bring you up a whole list, and that's constantly changing. And that's probably going to be the most updated list that you're going to find, the most current list. Because what happens if you go to some other places now? There is some other maps like USA Carry and stuff like that, which is they're usually pretty good, but it takes someone to actually update those sites,
Hmm.
okay? And they have to get it from places like Idaho State Police or the Attorney General's website. So there might be a time lag there. So I just go right to the source. It's a lot easier.
If you're going south, you're okay, Nevada and Utah.
Uh-huh.
If you're going east, Wyoming and Montana, you're okay.
Yep.
Going west is a different story.
Oregon is pretty much a no-go. They don't, as far as I know, they don't really recognize anyone else's permit. Now, I haven't checked for a while, okay, so don't take this as doctrine, okay? Check into this. But I believe Oregon lets you get actually an Oregon non-resident permit. And last I heard, now I don't, this has been a while ago. Last I heard, they will recognize the enhanced permit, you taking the enhanced permit and having that, and the training that you received to get that permit, that class. They will typically recognize that as enough training to make up for their training so you can get the non resident permit. But Idaho, for example, Idaho is a shell issue state. As long as you pass the background, meet the requirements, they shall issue you the permit. Oregon is a may issue state. It's up to the sheriff in that county. So a lot of people have told me, and I don't know this for a fact 'cause I haven't tried to get it. A lot of people have told me that you need to go and visit some of the counties that border Idaho, the ones that are more likely to be gun friendly, Second Amendment friendly, and the chances are, like they'll be the sheriffs that will go ahead and honor that and help you through that. But you're gonna have to call around. You're gonna have to do some research.
But if you did find someone who would approve it in one of those Oregon counties, and then you get approval, then you could carry there.
You could, yes, if you got their non-resident, you'd have to get their non-resident permit and make sure they still obviously recognize the Idaho training for the enhanced permit class and make sure that's going to be reciprocal for them.
And we wanted to remind people too as well, if you are going across the state line, even at a place that it's okay, where you have the reciprocity, if you're talking to a law enforcer in those states, you have to let them know that you have the permit.
At least that's it varies. In Idaho, you do not have to inform. Where you don't have to inform when you get pulled over that you have a firearm or a concealed carry, weapons permit or a gun in the car or anything like that. Now, the Weiss thing says that you should. It's just kind of a
Don't
courteous.
surprise people,
Yeah, don't
right?
surprise people. It's kind of courteous, but that is totally up to you. Now, if you go to Nevada and you don't even have a firearm with you, but you have a permit, you're supposed to let that officer know. You're by law, you must let that officer know at the first available contact. As he walks up to your car, you say, "Hey, I have a concealed carry permit." Even if you don't have your firearm with you. If you do not and he finds out, that's a big offense over in Nevada. Now, in Oregon and other states like that, that's going to vary. You're going to have to find out if they're a must inform state or not. Every state's a little different.
The reason people should know though is if you're up in Ontario or Payette and you're not thinking you're going to cross the state line, but then somebody in the car says, "Well, look, let's pop over there for a minute and do some shopping." Uh,
Right.
it's often easy to forget that if you're carrying, that you just crossed that state line and you're put into a bit of a pickle.
Right. And if you're going to do that and you have your firearm with you, you have to get on Oregon's website. And like I said, it changes. It's been a while since I looked I can't keep up on all the other states. It's just too much. But I do believe you can have a firearm in your car, obviously, because you can own a firearm in Oregon, but you have to transport it correctly. And sometimes that means unloaded guns and ammo, or ammo in the back, or you have to take the gun apart. It's got to be in a locked box, something like that. Whatever they say it has to, how you transport it. That's how you have to transport it. So if you're going into Oregon and you have your concealed carry weapon with you, you're traveling through, you're popping in to do a little shopping, whatever. You have to make sure you stop on the Idaho side and take your gun apart, unload it, separate the ammo, whatever they say you have to do so you can transport it into Oregon or through Oregon legally.
And again, if you're traveling across country, you've got to know a lot of these things because state by state, like Maryland's a good example, you have to have it disassembled and put in the trunk.
Right.
So it's a small state. In some places, you're only crossing it for a few miles, but you better remember these things because you never know.
That I mean, and there's I can't remember that it's happened more than a handful of years ago, and I can't remember the name of the lady. There's a big deal about it. I think it was in New Jersey. I think she had just crossed the bridge,
Right, right.
and I don't remember the name and stuff, but she had her firearm with her. She didn't. She crossed the bridge. Didn't think she assumed that she had a permit. She was good to go.
She was a nurse, but she had lived in a bad neighborhood, and
Yeah.
she had the firearm to protect her kids. I
Yes.
believe on the Pennsylvania side,
Yep.
and she forgot to tell someone in New Jersey, or she just forgot she had it on her
She was
person.
she was I believe she was pulled over, and she thought she was doing the right thing by informing him that she had a gun. Well, she was in the wrong state at and she informed them. She did what she thought she should do, and then they went ahead and convicted her of whatever it was. I think she was let off eventually,
Right.
but it was a big fight, and they were raising lots of money. I mean, it was a simple mistake. So you've got to be aware of where you are and what the laws are.
She eventually ended up with Chris Christie in her corner
Yeah.
because when he heard her story about putting herself through school and raising these kids, but trying to make sure that she kept them safe in her home neighborhood. But if he hadn't been there to intervene, if there had been someone who was anti firearms, and he's not exactly the biggest supporter of firearms,
Right.
but he's a little bit better than some of his predecessors have been, and he was impressed by her story and that she had a lot of people saying we know her character references were very good, but it took a long time and a lot of
And it cost her
legal
a lot of money.
right.
Just one simple mistake cost her a lot of money. So it pays to take the class. It pays to know the laws. It pays to be aware of these things because in Idaho, yes, you don't need a permit. In Idaho, you can take your gun out and do whatever, but carry it however you want. Can still carry open carry whatever without a permit. But you don't know the laws, and if you even in Idaho, if you carry somewhere you're not supposed to and you get jammed up, that goes on your record. That's a lot. That's a big headache. It could be a lot of lawsuits. It could be a lot of money. You need to know the laws.
We're going to squeeze a caller in here. I've only got about 40 seconds before the break, but we'll allow you to get a question out and then we can talk about it on the other side of the break. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Well, just real quick, does the disassembly would just apply to handguns? What would you do if you had a shotgun, say, and you're going in Maryland, you're going to hunt geese on the eastern shore? How does that work out? I mean, some shotguns are easy to take apart, some aren't. Um, does that just apply? What are the rules as far as something where you're obviously hunting a bird of some sort?
We'll get to that on the other side of the break. There's a tremendous area for duck hunting, I should point out.
No, I want to go now.
But we'll talk about that coming up on the other side of the break. Thanks for the call. It's 9:20, and we're at 49. Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense in the studio with us. Bill Colley as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense is in studio with us this morning. We're talking firearms. It's 9:23. It's 51. Bill Colley with you too as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX. Todd's available for your telephone calls too at 736-0300, 736-0300. Question from a caller was, what if you're going through a state like Maryland to duck hunt, something like that, and you've got a shotgun? Do you have to disassemble that? How would that work?
Every state's got different laws, and for example, I know Idaho real well. When you're looking at the gun law in Idaho, and you're looking at like the concealed carry type law and stuff like that, it when it says weapons, the definition of weapons is or weapon or firearm. The definition of firearm is a handgun, and so we're worried about handguns. I don't know, if that's the same for up there, if their state when they says that, is just talking about handguns or pistols. So typically, what I would say is do your research if you are going up there or something like that. You're typically not like even in Oregon. I don't think you're going to have to take your shotgun apart. It probably needs to be in a case. It probably needs to be in the back seat, out of your reach. Probably needs to be in the trunk, maybe. It needs to not be loaded, and usually, the ammo needs to be separate from it, or one ammo in one end of the car, firearm in the other end of the car, that kind of thing. But I don't know the exact laws, but I don't think you're gonna have to take your rifle apart. I don't think you're gonna have to take your shotgun apart, but your handgun, maybe you have to read the law on that.
There are a couple of other things that come in there. People get jobs in different places around the country, and so you've got to move your things, your furniture and
Right.
your appliances. And so you've got to know these laws too as well, because if you're going across country in a rider truck, what do you do in that situation? And even I would imagine even flying, as the airlines, I would imagine, as long as you declare it and it goes into the baggage area and stays there disassembled, you might be able with some airlines to take a firearm with you.
Typically on airlines, I've never flown with it. I don't like to leave my house. Okay, I don't like to leave Idaho. I do fly occasionally, but it's for work, and I can't take anything with me. But from what I gather, from what I've read, from what I've been told, when you fly with a firearm, you don't necessarily have to take it apart. It has to be in a TSA or some kind of airline approved case. Typically, you're going to want it to be able to lock it. You're going to have to declare it. You're going to have to open it up and show them. It doesn't need to be taken apart. Doesn't need to be loaded. Now, I don't know if the ammo needs to be separate from the, in a separate box from the handgun or not. You're gonna have to look. Don't take this as the gospel, as the doctrine, because Todd doesn't know, and I don't want to get anyone in trouble. You're not gonna have to disassemble it. You probably, even if it is disassembled, you're not gonna get away with a carry on or even in the luggage. You're gonna have to actually declare it as a firearm, that kind of thing.
Again, it'll go into the hold of
Yeah.
the jet, and you won't see it until you pick up your luggage.
Right, I imagine that's how it works. That's how I'm told it works. Like once again, I don't got enough money to fly anywhere fancy to go hunting, and I've got 5 kids, and there's no way we're all flying
I'm
somewhere.
still thinking Anchorage this summer, but I won't be doing any hunting. I'll just be doing sightseeing.
Yeah,
We have a caller with us. Caller, it's 926, and you're on KLIX. Go ahead.
Hi, a couple of questions if I could ask them.
sure.
Why is Oregon so weird? The reason I asked that particular statement
We
is
all asked that, by the way.
you can't even it's illegal for you to pump your own gas in Oregon.
I hate that. I won't live there just because of that.
That's so cockeyed, and then their gun laws are about as cockeyed to match that law as anything else. But anyway, I guess that's more of a comment than anything.
You know.
Go ahead.
Oh no, if you had another question, go for it.
My driver's license is good in all 50 states. I can drive in Hawaii. I can drive in Washington, D.C. with my driver's license is standard. This is a bunch of paraphernalia to have all these different laws in all these states, and that woman didn't know any different you guys were talking about earlier. This is just retarded. I don't know how else to explain it. I could use stronger cowboy verbiage, but, they need to make a total gun law all across the United States, but what I'm afraid I'm going to say when I say that is that they'll make it to the negative rather than the positive.
They've tried to do what they call they've tried for the last 3 or 4 years, I think, to do what they call a national reciprocity law. And you hear about it and you hear about it, and then it just goes away. I don't know if they just don't push it. I don't know if it actually just doesn't get voted on. I'm not sure what happens, but no, that would be a good thing. A national reciprocity law. It would probably cut into my classes a little bit, but hopefully people would search out more training. But
the thing of it that I'm afraid of is that they'll go
yeah,
national reciprocity law to the negative more than the positive, and then we'll be in worse trouble.
well, yeah, and then you're gonna have more gun laws coming out of Washington, D.C. Versus the state laws. They're gonna start dictating when you can and can't do in your own state, and it's gonna be bad. They're gonna take that control and like you said, go the wrong way with it. That is a big possibility.
Well, then, are you basically for that or kind of against it? What's your comment?
I'm for anything that helps our rights out. So I'm for a national reciprocity. It'd be easy, but you'd have to look at a bill. You'd have to really think on it once it came through, and because there is always an opportunity for them to take more control over. But they could take more control over whatever we got going on now too. I mean, they could cause us to register guns even here in Idaho. They could make it so you can only buy one a year. They could bring out some kind of insurance that you have to carry, that you can't afford if you're going to buy a firearm. I mean, it could always be bad. I mean, anything they could come at you with anything bad. More regulations, more stipulations. A national reciprocity law though would be great because, like our driver's license, I am allowed to drive in all 50 states.
We should point out, though, that license will get you into Alberta and British Columbia, but you can't carry there.
Oh, it's a good point.
Yeah. We've got a short break. More of your calls coming up in just a moment. It's 9:30. Be patient. We'll get through this, and we'll get to your calls following the break. It's 52. Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense in studio with us. Bill Colley as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Todd Eccles is our guest in the studio from Patriot Defense, and we should point out, too, as well, he's going to give us his contact details in just a moment, but we'll get to a caller first. It's 52. We're at 9:34. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We have a very patient caller waiting for us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Hey, about national reciprocity for concealed carry, I'm kind of split on that. I kind of like the immediate short-term convenience of not having to fiddle with all the weird paperwork to carry in the next state, but in the long term, I'm concerned about the basic setting of a precedent that, well, national reciprocity seems to presume the federal government actually has some authority in terms of whether I can carry and where I can do it or not. And I don't know if I like establishing that kind of a precedent. What do you gentlemen think?
That's actually exactly kind of what we were talking about. Just even off, during the break, they could come in and they could say, they could easily come in and say, okay, we want here's national reciprocity, but you're going to have to go do this. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to take 40 hours of gun safety training. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. And it may be to the extreme. And once you allow them in, allow that foot in the door, like you said, you're setting a precedent, and more regulation from the federal level could come in easy.
And we may think that, and I was pointing out to Todd, we may think that people are wrong-headed in Massachusetts, at least the people who run the government in that state. But if you go in and you tell them you're going to live this way, they may come back and say, well, in exchange for that, this is what we believe. Here's some things we want you to live by, too, as well. And that we could set a precedent there where all of a sudden the notion that states were independent and sovereign could be given away to 50 provinces.
It's a states' rights thing, and I like the way Idaho believes, and I don't want it to be dictated by the federal government on exactly how we do everything. So.
Yep, I don't want to be put in a position where we're negotiating about my rights, because my rights are non-negotiable.
That's
Thank
right.
you, Mr. DC.
Yeah, but we need some money for something, and here you can have this money, but this is going to be attached to it. They already tried to do that, and if you let them in the door even more, it'll be even worse.
Want to thank him for the call, and the telephone number to reach the show today, 736-0300, 736-0300. The other part of that I worry is you get some guy in Detroit who's a gangbanger, and he decides he's going to drive west, and then you got to put up with people like that too. Different states, we may not again agree with how they do this, but if he shows up in Illinois, or he shows up in, I don't know, Iowa or Minnesota, and they snag him, that means he's not going to show up here and cause any mayhem.
Right. And here's the thing too is, and I'm not picking on Californians, but it's the state everyone talks about over here. I disagree with what goes on in California. I disagree with some of the laws and stuff they have in place down there for the state of California. So you know what? I don't move to California. I stay out of California. I don't visit California. I don't live in California. I live in Idaho, and I live here for a reason. And my Second Amendment rights are just, is one of the big reasons, but it's one of the many reasons why I'm here. I won't necessarily go into a business that has a big sign on there that says I can't bring my firearm, with me. I won't give them my money, so I'm not going to go live in a state that says that same thing. So maybe we're fine the way we are. Everyone just kind of goes where they feel is best for them and best for their beliefs, and we just leave it at that.
I have to point out, people get the government they deserve, and that's why California is in the condition. And then my first year here, I met two people who'd relocated from California because they simply got fed up with it, and they wanted to live the lifestyle here. And that option was available to them. They moved their families here, and they settled here because they wanted their kids to grow up in an area where you didn't have gangs, and at least the level of gangs and drugs that they had there, and that you had a little bit of liberty, and they knew that this was an option.
Yeah, and it's a good option, just as long as they don't come here and try to turn this into something that they left because they hated it so much, and that happens.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people come in and they settle down. They said, "This is great." I knew this growing up in a small town. We used to joke that people would move there because they were expecting to see Andy and Barney on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they got there and they realized, well, you don't have, sometimes you got to be a little bit more self reliant. Then they'd go down to the town council and say, well, you need to do this or we need that. And then they couldn't understand why everybody else looked at them and said, well, why did you come here?
Yeah.
Uh,
What did you think this was?
yeah. Yeah. They thought it was Mayberry and that there would be fresh pies cooling on the windowsills. And that's how it was every day. And Otis might be the most worrisome problem in town. And it didn't turn out that way.
You got to quit talking about pies. I missed my mid-morning snack.
Short break coming up. Todd Eccles is joining us from Patriot Defense. And I just want to mention next Wednesday, the folks from Tripp Family Medicine return. We'll be talking to the doctor or one of his associates in studio between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. And Dr. Tripp's office is still looking for new patients. Often they can see you if you're a patient of his office on the very same day. If you call in the morning with a medical issue, the office is located on Fillmore Street in Twin Falls, directly across from the main post office. And I do want to point out, too, as well, as we noted on Wednesday, they do offer immunizations both for adults and for children at Dr. Tripp's office. And remember, life's too short not to feel good. Todd Eccles joins us most Friday mornings from Patriot Defense. And of course, he's going to tell us a bit about the details on how you can get in touch with him. There's a training class tomorrow for your concealed carry permit, which would allow you to carry to states with reciprocity. And we'll talk about that in a moment, too. He's got 2 courses coming up in June. We're at 53 at 9:43. Bill Colley with you, too, as well, on Top Story on News Radio 1310. KLIX, newsradio1310.com. Can we first mention you were away last Friday because you were at a competition?
Yeah, both my kids, I have 2 of my 5 kids. They shoot on the Xavier Charter School's trap and skeet team or shooting league, and it was the state competition for the state of Idaho. And my daughter, that she's done pretty good in the past couple of years, she was unable to do it. She's got to have some surgery on her hand. But my 11-year-old son just started last spring, or excuse me, last fall, and they have a fall and a spring league, and he went back to it this spring, and he's a rookie, so he's a novice, and he went up there and he shot sporting clay, or yeah, sporting clays, and he shot trap. And I'm so proud of him. He did good. I mean, it was freezing up there. It was windy. It was raining. Those poor little kids had a hard time loading even putting the second round into their shotgun because their hands were just cold and just miserable. But he, for the state of Idaho, in his novice division in the boys, he took 5th place in sporting clays, which I was super happy. And the next day he shot trap, and he ended up tying for second place in state. And him and the other little boy had a shoot off, and it was intense. It was they go up there, they have to shoot 25 rounds, and he'd hit one, he'd break one, the other kid would break one. He'd break one, the other kid would break one. Then one person would miss, and the other one would be one up. And then the other one would miss, and the other one would hit it, and went back and forth. It was a nail biter, and those little kids they're pretty good shots with the shotgun. And anyhow, he ended up losing the shoot off by 1. No big deal. He got 3rd place. He got trophies. I think you saw the pictures of him, and I mean, just the rookies are just a cute little team. They're just little short guys, and there's this little gal, and that shotgun was just, she was shooting, and she was shooting well, but that shotgun was just beating her up. But they shot like 200 or 300 rounds in 2 days. That's a lot for anyone. That's a lot on a little kid. It was a great time. Lots of parents up there supporting their kids. Just a great situation, a great organization. It was just fantastic. Guns and school and teaching your kids how to shoot, and it's just a great thing.
Wanted to point out for people who'd like to, obviously, who might be novices, your children aren't, but people who are novices, this is the reason you actually do this course, is because, and for many people, it gets them started and you give them a good background in the law and responsibility, and you hope that they then continue it too, that they don't just go home, put it away. And
Right.
but if they'd like to get in touch with you, how do they go about doing it?
You can call me. You can text me. Area code 620-794-6223. One more time. It's area code 620-794-6223. You can find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. You can shoot me a message there. You can call and text me at the number I just gave you. I know that is a Kansas prefix number, but it goes right to my cell phone. I'm just too lazy to get it changed now. I'm too far in to change it to an Idaho number now. Get a hold of me. I can even fit you in tomorrow's class. I have 2 more classes, one on the June 10th, one on June 17th. They're both, or all 3 of those classes are for the Idaho Enhanced Concealed Carry Permit. I also have another class coming up on June 9th, and it's over. We're kind of went together, me and that new gun store in Filer. It's Brother in Arms Firearms. Are over there on Main Street. You can go in there and ask for Chris. You can go in there and ask for Sandy. Two of my buddies, they're the ones that own it. We're gonna have a safety class there. We call it a Guns 101 class. It's gonna be an hour long. It's like $20 a person. It's going to be at 6 o'clock on June 9th at p.m. I'm going to have a PowerPoint. We're going to have lots of different firearms there for you to handle. It's for anyone, but it's mostly for the beginner, the kids, the women, anyone who wants to come in and get into firearms. It's going to show you the type of the actions. We're going to go over the safety rules. You're going to be able to handle each firearm. This is a non-shooting class, obviously. We're not shooting anything, but you're going to be able to handle them, work the actions on a semi-auto, see how a revolver works, see how different rifles operate and shotguns and whatnot. We have all that there, answer questions, just so if you're looking to buy a firearm and you're brand new, you don't go in there blind. You know how to clear a gun, you know how the safeties work, that kind of thing.
When the United States ended up in a couple of world wars, a lot of the men who went off and fought and became sharpshooters, which helped. I mean, what may not have been the decisive edge in the wars, but more Americans were known as sharpshooters than anybody fighting for the other combatants probably combined. It's because they'd grown up either squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting,
Right.
or they would go trap shooting and skeet shooting, and they would compete. So the skills they learned in just competitive arenas paid off for them later on. And when you think about your son doing something like this, it's great fun. It's competition, but the idea is that if the day ever came, he's got a skill now
Hmm.
that could save his life.
Well, exactly, and this is where I start them. I start them off on like I don't. They don't even shoot BB guns. We start them off on like a 22, and they go out and shoot a little handguns with dad, and then we get them out to shoot the shotguns, and they do this, and they learn gun safety because firearm safety is essentially going to be the same between a shotgun, a rifle, a handgun. I'd trust that kid with a shotgun any day. He can outshoot me with a shotgun. I'm not that good with a shotgun, to be 100% honest with you, but it instills in them gun safety, how to make it function. It instills in them discipline. It's just some good stuff. We were talking here. You're talking about the wars and some different things. I've got a. I'd like to read something. It's kind of a quote. I've posted a few times. I just found it and I reposted it. And what it is it's in a conversation that Thomas Jefferson had to Peter Carr in 1785. It says, "A strong body makes the mind strong. As to the species of exercise, I advise the gun. While this gives moderate exercise to the body, it gives boldness, enterprise, and independence to the mind. Games played with the ball and others of that nature are too violent for the body and stamp no character on the mind. Let your gun therefore be your constant companion of your walks." Back then, I mean, that still holds a lot of truth today. Back then, it held a lot more truth, obviously, because that gun is whether you live or die or whether you eat or not. But it's all about discipline. It's all about it's good for the mind.
I was reading at Glenn Beck's The Blaze this morning, a story about, and it might have been in Texas, somewhere south of here, but there was a pastor who had his entire extended family at his house, and that included daughters and sons-in-laws, and
Ah,
and and
saw that.
and they were asleep when some crazed guy wearing nothing but his underwear burst into the house, started beating on people and fighting with them, and
Throwing TVs at them.
through a TV set, yeah,
Yeah.
until finally one of the sons-in-law got up and shot the guy dead. And quoted later on, he said, "We're a Christian family, but we do have to defend ourselves." And when I read that, I thought, here's a family probably living in a decent neighborhood. Well, I shouldn't say this. Most pastors likely don't have too many enemies.
Right.
That may periodically happen, but for the most part, they're in a line of work where your your dealings with other people are generally very friendly,
Sure.
and so you wouldn't. So this is almost a perfect family, and then out of nowhere, and the guy was apparently on drugs. So you don't know if you're even living in a good neighborhood. You don't know who could be on the street.
Well, yeah, and most people, I don't go around wanting to shoot someone. I don't go around wanting to have to defend myself. Nobody should. I mean, there's probably some people out there that do, but nobody should. But you know what? I have a firearm just in case. I'm prepared just in case. Just like I have a smoke alarm in my house, just like I put a seatbelt on in my car. Um, I'm just prepared. Stuff can happen. I don't go around making enemies everywhere I go, and I would pray that nothing and hope that nothing would ever happen to me, but I'm prepared if it does. And a good Christian people, they don't want to harm anyone, but you've got to defend your family, you got to defend yourself.
We have a caller, I believe, looking to join us. Telephone number 736-0300, 736-0300. It's 9:52. We're at 50 on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen. I think the one thing that hasn't been told so far is anyone that teaches proper gun etiquette to their grandchildren or anything else also teaches them about the life of another person and how precious it is, because a gun can end a life in a second on a simple mistake. And that is something we teach all of our people. I think too many gun shows or anything else show people just being out there wild and crazy with guns. That's not what I'm about. I love guns. I love shooting guns, but I know what the danger is on the other end of that barrel. I was taught that from a young age, and I was taught that life matters. So you don't ever point it at somebody that you could kill. Thoughts, now that you have your own course, when are you going to start doing your advanced courses?
I am shooting for June, actually. Probably toward the middle or end of June is when I'm going to start doing that. I have a gentleman that's going to help me with that. Just talking to him earlier in the week. He's got the curriculum together. I'm just going to kind of go over it. This guy's a former law enforcement trainer, stuff like that. So he knows what he's doing. I just want to kind of check out and kind of work out any of the bugs. But I'm planning for June. I will talk about it on the radio. As soon as I get it figured out, I'll post it online. I'll post it on Facebook. You guys will hear about it because I'd like to get a handful of people to do something like that. It seems like it's really hard to get people around here. Not everyone, but it's real hard to get people to want to do more than just take a class to get their permit. So I want to get this rolling. I want to get it fresh in people's minds and see if we can get kind of a following. But I'm excited, as anxious as you are, and I'll let you guys know as soon as I get something rolling.
Yeah, I like, my same family that I brought to the class, I'd like to bring to advanced courses.
Sure, no problem. I'll take a look at this curriculum and I'll get that all laid out. That'll be fantastic. It'll be fun.
Want to thank him for the telephone call. And it actually, as you pointed out in the past, a lot of people who've come into this and they're a little nervous in the beginning and they're a
Hmm.
little unsure in the beginning, and after they've gone through the initial class, they end up getting, you've got to have that practice. And so a lot of people become avid uh, sportsmen, if you will, or women, and they're out and they're constantly trying to get better at what they're doing with that skill.
Yeah, I have a lot of people come in and they're a little anxious. They're nervous. It's a real friendly environment. You will learn something. Usually 25 rounds in, they're ready to go, and they enjoy it. And this is so much fun. This is so much fun, and they want to continually go out and shoot some more. I mean, I've had women come into the class with their husbands, and they have like a little 22 to shoot. And by the time the class is over, they're looking at all my guns, going, "What's this one? What's this one? Can I shoot this one?" They go out, they buy a gun, and they go and they shoot all the time. A lot of them will friend me on Facebook. And a lot of them, I feel really good because a lot of them they'll like my Facebook page, my Patriot Defense Facebook page, and then they'll friend my personal page, which is Todd Eccles. They'll friend me there, and I get to see what they're doing. And they go out and they go shoot, or maybe they decided to try out hunting this year, and it makes me feel good to know that I gave them a skill, I gave them a passion for something that they go out and continually do. It's fantastic. I get lots of questions. I'm going to go buy another gun. I need a holster. What do you recommend? And I love that.
I think about the Magic Valley practical shooters who are constantly out doing this,
Yes.
and really they're just trying to hammer home that idea that it's about safety and that
Hmm.
it's about being prepared, and you're prepared by just practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, but it's all muscle memory. Practice, practice, practice. You can't. I don't want you to come to my class and shoot one time and then not pick up your firearm and shoot for the next 6 months, or not shoot for a year. It's all about that. You'll lose it. It's a perishable skill. You'll lose it. You need to get familiar with it. It needs to become muscle memory. You need to know what to do when you pick up that firearm, and practice, 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 practice safety, practice just shooting at a paper plate, practice shooting at a bullseye, pretty soon that will get boring to you. You'll still want to go shoot, but that'll get boring. So you'll take up hunting, or you'll come up with more challenging situations, scenarios to go shoot at the range, at the gravel pits. Maybe you'll join a league. Maybe you'll join the Magic Valley Practical Shooters. And it's all about progression and development, and you got to start somewhere. So pick it up and don't put it down.
One of the games I was really good at in gym class when I was in high school was volleyball. And and I could leap and smack that ball down on top of somebody's head across the net and could serve like there was no tomorrow. And so I was at a work party about 20 years after I got out of high school, and they were organizing a game, and I thought, oh, I'll go show them. And I went out there and I was awful because I hadn't played in 20 years.
Yeah, yeah, and it's what'll happen. I mean, my not picking on my daughters. My daughters like to go shooting with me quite a bit, and then they quit. They got interested in boys and busy with school, and they didn't go out for 6 months, 8 months, maybe a year. I can't remember exactly. And she's like, "Dad, I want to go shooting with you again." So we went out. I handed her the gun, the handgun that she was shooting fantastically with last time. I took her out, and she stared at it like it was some kind of foreign object, and I had to go over with her how to use it again, how to shoot it, how to hold it, all that stuff. So it's a perishable skill.
See, they got interested in boys, and we were talking before the show today about Annie Oakley and you can't get a man with a gun. It was a song, folks. It wasn't necessarily real.
Well, my daughter, she shoots that shotgun, and she's constantly chatting with people about boys about what shotgun she shoots and all this stuff. So, ladies, get into guns and find yourself a guy.
And they'll also respect you too because they know they can only go so far.
There you go. There you go.
9:58. Todd, we'll see you soon next Friday.
Yep, I'll be here.
All right, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. Short break coming up, followed by news at 10 o'clock from Fox, then the Rush Limbaugh program. Sean Hannity's show at after 1 o'clock news today. Glenn Beck at 4, and then Dave Ramsey from 7 until 10 o'clock tonight. God willing, and the creek don't rise, that'll allow me to come back in on Monday morning and do this all over again between 8 and 10 o'clock.